So today's gospel reading, Jesus talks about throwing things into Gehenna. Back when I was in seminary, my summer going to between St. Meinrad and St. John's, I spent a summer doing odd jobs at my home parish of St. Mary's in Wayne. And they had a new pastor, Father O'Callahan, and he had a brand new associate. Oil still dripping wet on him from his ordination, by the name of Father Brian Shabala. Great guy. He's just now retired, so that's how long ago this was. But anyway, Brian Shabala found out from one of the parishioners that there was a warehouse, a carpeting warehouse in Redford that wanted to get rid of some carpet. And Father Brian knew that Father O'Callahan, the pastor, wanted to redo the carpeting in the rectory and in the old convent. So Father Brian thought this was a great idea. If I get this carpeting for free, what a blessing that would be for the parish. So he got a hold of me and another seminarian, who's now Father Larry Zorowski, who has a pastorate out in Redford, or no, Dearborn Heights, one of those two. And so they called us in and got the custodian, brand new fellow, and they took this big van, and the three of us drove to the warehouse in Redford. Well, we got into this massive building, and there were stacks and stacks of beautiful carpet, all new carpet. The smell of that new carpet, filled the air. And we kept walking and walking. It was a very big place. And we got to this area way in the back that didn't smell good at all. In fact, it smelled real bad. It smelled like your basement after it had been flooded. And there was a mountain of carpet there. It was carpet that had all been torn up from basements and places like that because of flooding and whatever. It was a mess. And the guy says to the custodian, "This is the free carpet." Well, Larry and I scratched our heads and said to the custodian, "We don't think this is what Father Brian wants." Now, mind you, we didn't have cell phones, so we couldn't just get on the phone and call. And the custodian, who's brand new, says, "Nope, Father says to get the free carpet, we're going to get the free carpet." Okay, you're in charge. We loaded up the van with this smelly, awful stuff and drove it back to Wayne. Called Father Brian. He came up. We opened up the door. Father Brian gagged at the smell. Said, "What's this?" So he said, "This is the free carpet they were giving." Father Brian, "This is a disaster. I can't show the pastor this. What am I going to do?" Well, they did have a dumpster there, but the dumpster, there was some being work done in the school, and the dumpster was filled, and he didn't want to pile it up outside. And I suggested that down Hannon Road, about 1.5 miles away from the house where I was living with my parents, was a large dump. In fact, it is the largest dump in Michigan. You go down there, Hannon Road, south of Michigan Avenue, you can just count all the trucks with the Toronto license plates coming in and Ontario license plates taking. That's where all the Toronto trash goes, to Canton, Michigan, just to let you know. Anyway, so I said, let's go dump it at the dump. And that's a great idea. We drove to that dump. That was my first and last time ever in that dump. We drove in there, and my God, it made the carpeting smell good. I didn't want to get out of the truck. It was ghastly. There were about 20 dump trucks and semi-dumping this stuff. 1 million flies, seagulls everywhere, bird you-know-what everywhere. It was just awful. What an awful place. Well, I'll never forget, the scene in the junkyard. Well, every Monday in Warren and Sterling Heights, I guess it's Mondays, we put out our trash and the dump trucks come. And let's face it, we do live in a throwaway society. We live in a society that, it's far easier to get a new thing, whatever that thing is, than to pay for a repair, isn't it? Something breaks down, we don't think, where's the closest repair shop? Our first thought is, where can we get a new one, whatever that one is? I mean, let's be honest, that's how we do things. Well, in Jesus' day, they had town dumps too. And when Jesus is talking about throwing something into Gehenna, he's talking about the Jerusalem town dump. Jerusalem sits on top of a low mountain, and there are the valleys that surround it. One of them is very famous, the Kidron Valley. But there's one valley that's very narrow and sharp, and it acted as the town dump. And when people threw their garbage, they'd go to the edge of the hill and throw it down the hill. And when the garbage piled up in it, the town fathers would go down and burn it. So there's constantly fire and ashes, and if you look down, you'd see a bunch of ugly ashes, you'd see some fire smoldering in different places, you'd see some new garbage recently taught. That was Gehenna. Furthermore, in Jesus' day, when something was worn out, they found another use for it. I mean, they would use things and reuse things and try to fix things. They didn't have, most of them were too poor to buy new things. So they did not, when they threw something away, there was no possible use for whatever it was. There was nothing except total waste, and they throw it away. And that's the point Jesus is making. He's saying that if you live your life totally devoid of God's love, you weren't interested in it, you didn't open your life to it, you just concerned yourself with the things of this world, all that stuff is going to be of waste. All that stuff in the eyes of God is something to be thrown away. But he reminds us, especially in the first part, when he says, because you belong to Christ, not all of you have value in the eyes of God. Everyone is made in the image of God. Nobody's garbage. Everybody is endowed with God's love. But you have to open yourself to it. You have to accept it. And then you have to live out those values. If you brought clothes today, for example, to help the poor, the St. Vincent de Paul, that was one way of many ways you can show the fact that your faith is alive. And it means something because it is in our love for each other. It's in our caring for each other. Al and Arlene have given this example of 50 years of love for each other. And many other examples can be given. The teens that have worked all morning out there loading up that truck, they've given us example of what it is to show God's love. So, when you get up in the morning, you think about your tasks ahead, try to incorporate one or two moments where you can make a special effort to show someone that you care about them. You might do something active or you might do something with prayer. But whatever it is, incorporate that into your daily life so that every day in your life you do something of value. You do something of meaning. It's never going to be thrown away, but instead lifted up high to heaven.